State Democrats have endorsed Malloy for governor. He's here to talk about the race he has to win, even in his own party. Also, Susan Bysiewicz is not running for anything, and she's facing an uncertain future. She tells us whether she regrets switching from the governor's race to running for attorney general. And in the race for attorney general, Democrats now pin their hopes on George Jepsen. You're watching The Real Story. I'm Lori Perez. Connecticut's political parties have picked teams endorsing their candidates for state and federal offices, but strong challengers on both sides are pushing ahead with primaries, which is fueling an exciting campaign season. Right here in the middle of it all, and one of the most watched races, the race for governor, is former Stamford Mayor Dan Malloy. Thanks for being here. Also joining us for a conversation about the quest to lead Connecticut is current columnist Rick Green. Rick, thank you for joining us. So, Dan, first of all, if we can talk about, there's a lot of buzz about this series of debates that you are proposing.
Well, you know what I've done is I've proposed that we have a debate in every community that has a daily newspaper. Not a bad idea for the Hartford and the Hartford Courant, but every other community. You know, what you have to understand is that this is a different election. I'm not chained to a desk with a phone in my hand having to raise money. I did all of that. I was the first person to qualify in the history of the state of Connecticut for the Clean Elections Fund, and I had to raise $250,000 at $100 or less. That frees me up to do other things, and I'm ready to do those things.
But you brought up money. I mean, we're already seeing in the U.S. Senate race how money is affecting that race. Rob Simmons dropping out saying Linda McMahon simply has too much money. How are the deep pockets of Ned Lamont going to affect your race?
Well, Ned has the ability to spend whatever amount of money he wants to spend, as does Linda, as do other candidates in this race. This is a very interesting situation that's happened in Connecticut. People are literally taking mounds of money and throwing at it, trying to buy an office for the first time in their life. And I'm not that person. You couldn't be more different than Ned Lamont and myself. I don't want to run government like a business. I want to run Connecticut's government like a great government again. It's a very different approach, and one that's based on experience. I've done the job of governor in one sense. I ran a city with a $500 million budget. I did it successfully, lowering crime, building housing, adding 5,000 jobs. It's a very different set of experiences than Ned Lamont has.
All right.
Dan, I'm still trying to get my arms around why I, as a taxpayer, should be paying for your lawn signs.
Well,
it's
a good question.
Why am I paying for your ads? Why should I finance your campaign so you can have 20 debates with Ned Lamont?
So that you don't have to write a whole lot of stories about the influence of money in government, so that we actually are assured that kind of influence is out. The largest donation to allow me to qualify was $100. Ned Lamont is out collecting donations at $3,500 a crack. It's a very different proposition. You want clean government, and that's what this is. And by the way, understand that how this is funded is not. These are monies that are not raised by tax dollars. They're forfeiture monies.
But this is an era where we're seeing teacher layoffs, facing a $3 billion or a $5 billion budget. Is it the right tone to be setting to be paying for campaigns? Shouldn't that be up to you as the candidate?
If I was a wealthy person, would you want me to do that? Are you advocating, for instance, that politics should all be about how wealthy you are and whether you can buy an office or whether you can afford to run for office? Listen, if that was the case, Abe Lincoln wouldn't have been our president. And so it's a very different proposition. Let's be very clear. What we've made in Connecticut is a decision that we were going to clean up politics. Now we have a bunch of politicians who are more than willing to blow up that system because they're trying to game it for themselves.
Talk about the latest polls, which still show Ned Lamont leading in this race. Tell me how you're going to make this a different campaign, and also, what does it really mean that you won the endorsement? Because you won in 2006, right?
Yeah. This campaign couldn't be any more different than the last time. First of all, I won by a vote last time. This time I won over 2-1 at a convention. Secondly, I'm not chained to a desk anymore. I have the money to spend, and it will be spent getting getting our message out. Thirdly, I have a lot of labor support, which I didn't have the last time. And labor means legs on the street on primary day and leading up to primary day. But most importantly, this is a stark difference. When I ran against John DeStefano, we had similar backgrounds, both middle-class guys, grew up in working families, both had been mayors. We were very similar. You couldn't be more different than Ned Lamont and myself.
How about that labor support,
yeah.
Dan? We're looking, as I said, huge deficit. Whoever's governor is going to have to come in and say no to a lot of people. Why do I want somebody as governor who's getting elected on the backs of the labor unions of the state? Aren't you going to have to say no to them when you get in office?
Let's be very clear. We've had Republican governors and Democratic legislatures. Has it worked? It hasn't. The reason you want me to be your governor is I've actually done this job. I was mayor of Stamford for 14 years. Our population went up somewhere between 12 to 14,000 people. But after my 14 years as mayor, city-side government was 8.4% smaller than it was when I took office, and it was providing more services, including having cut crime by 64%, making Stamford one of the 10 safest cities in America. Wouldn't you like a governor who had that kind of experience?
So talk about the budget that was recently passed. What sorts of things do you think that Democrats did not do that they should have done?
They didn't stand up to the governor sufficiently. This is a governor who began the season by wanting to kick the can down the road. She simply wants to be able to retire, saying that she had the highest approval rates of any governor in our lifetime. That was her goal. They're going to let her go into the sunset. What we have to do is address these structural deficits. We know that they're coming, and I have, by the way, the best partner to do that with. Nancy Wyman has honored me by agreeing to run with me as a candidate for lieutenant governor. She sounded the warning about these structural deficits going years backwards. And now to have her as a partner as we reshape Connecticut's government to be more efficient, but also to be a great government, to be tight with the buck, but also make sure we're providing the services. And the other thing I will say to you is Connecticut's government is too top-heavy and too top-down. There are too many steps between a commissioner and the lowest level employee.
So you would eliminate positions there? Or?
I've been very clear. Management ranks, and particularly the partisan management ranks, the non-civil service, the non-unionized employees, have absolutely exploded during the last 6 years. That's got to change. We're going to have to do lots of other things, including looking at consolidating by a third the state agencies. There's over 200 state agencies. We're going to have to consolidate. That doesn't mean eliminate the services being provided, but it does mean eliminate a lot of the management that's behind that.
One of the things you've made a big deal of is this issue of paid sick days. If we're talking about making Connecticut more affordable, a better place to do business, how is requiring businesses to have to pay for sick days, how does that make Connecticut attractive
the vast majority? I'm sorry.
That's right.
The vast majority of businesses do that to begin with.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's been proven, and there are a number of studies out there, including a study based in San Francisco when they did this, that actually showed that there were savings. See, if you nip an infection in the bud, if you go to bed when you're sick, then you're back to work a lot sooner than you would otherwise be. But let's put it another way. If you work in a hospital and you're sick, and you go to work because you didn't have a sick day, guess how many people you're about to infect? Or if you show up at the daycare center sick, guess how many children you make sick, and then how many parents will have to stay home to take care of those kids the next day or the day after the day after. This is a way to save money. Having said all of that, it's the right thing to do.
All right. Well, we are excited to learn more about your stand on the issues, and as we will, I'm sure, over the next few months. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Up next, we're going to go one-on-one with the Secretary of State, Susan Bysiewicz, on her sudden job search.